Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. Today's podcast is the Scrum Master Real Talk series. It's an episode in this series. This is a special series where we want to hear from Scrum Masters sharing personal experiences and stories, whether it's overcoming obstacles, creative solutions to problems, or just critical lessons and what they've learned in fostering agility and helping agile teams. Today, we're super excited and lucky to have Yannick from the Netherlands. Yannick works for an organization called Team Rockstars IT and is currently working with an organization I've actually had some dealings with, Ascent Energy in the Netherlands. They're the largest provider of electricity in the Netherlands and doing some amazing stuff on digital transformation and really transforming their organization to be a technology or digital first enterprise, which is really, really exciting. So welcome to the podcast, Yannick.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you. And I apologize, I didn't dare say your surname. For our listeners who are much smarter and more able to say words than me, tell us your whole name, Yannick.
Yeah, this is fun because I work with like a lot of international colleagues, so I also have to explain it a lot of times. But my full name is Yannick van der Wende.
Wow,
and
that's
awesome. Very Dutch.
Very Dutch, and I'm obviously very English. I've lived in America so long. I'm kind of the worst of both worlds now. All right, so thank you for that, Yannick. So let's start talking about your journey. You know, your Scrum Master journey. What experiences you've had along the way. Our listeners love to hear real life experiences of Scrum Masters that are having a lot of fun doing Scrum Mastery.
Yeah. So the fun thing is I've been working in IT for about 12 years now, and I haven't always been a Scrum Master. I started out as a developer, specifically Microsoft.NET development, and I've always done consultancy work. I myself have ADHD, so I really like to be able to just switch from project to project, learn a lot about a lot of things in the world. For example, I didn't know how certain Pringle chips were made, but I found out because of one of my projects. I actually went to one of the factories of it because they had an IT problem, which is really cool. But after a certain amount of time, I believe around 10 years of working in IT, doing development, I did a couple of stints of developer, Scrum Master role, double role, which I don't recommend personally. I felt, okay, if I want to make a next step in my career, I either need to start specializing in technique, or I stay the way I am and I'm just an okay senior developer. And then I took a hard look at myself and thought, okay, what is the most fun I have in my development job? And it's actually solving people's problems. And once in my last development assignment, I had a really nice Scrum Master who was very open to also have a lot of discussions with me how to create a better Scrum team. And sadly, at a certain point, that's the consultancy life as well. The project had to end and I had to scale off. But I felt like, okay, this is maybe the moment to also take a look at becoming a Scrum Master. So I took the test. I did some studying. I had a lovely ADHD hyperfocus. So I studied so much that actually within 2 months I got PSM2 instead of just PSM1. Which was awesome. And I got my first project at Lightyear, which was a really cool company. They wanted to make the first solar powered car.
Yes, I've worked with them a little bit as well. Really interesting company. They're talking about 1,000 kilometers extending the range of a battery to over 1,000 kilometers, and they won multiple prizes around that. You know, that when they take cars and put them in deserts and see how far they go. It's a really interesting story.
Yeah, it was a really cool story. But yeah, I started there, and I learned I was the first Scrum Master there. So that was also interesting. They were very much in a scale-up situation. They were like 80 people to 600 people in a couple of months. So there was a lot of things going on. And on my first day, I came in, I met a lot of people. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, first time Scrum Master, can I meet my team? Then I basically got the response, yeah, we haven't hired your team yet. And yeah, this was also my point in time that, okay, like all my experience as a developer, I know Scrum Masters that are part of the team, what they need to do. What do I do without a team? So I was like, okay, what's going on? What are you guys expecting from me? Well, we have some meetings with some higher ups and some other people, and we at least want you to explain Scrum to them, see if they are interested. Okay, that's good. Oh, yeah, it's actually good that you mentioned this. We want to hire a team, and we have 2 companies in the bidding, and they're going to show their bids tomorrow. Okay, sure, I'll join. So I'm in that bidding meeting, and both companies say, yeah, we deliver a full team with a Scrum Master. Well, what am I doing here, right? Yeah. So I had a little bit of a rocky start I did not expect. But here I'm really happy with Hans, the manager there. I just went back to him and said, is there a team that could use my help? And he said, yes, I know a team. So I went to that team. They were really struggling with the concept of agile. It was a really cool team as well because they were building everything that was with the Android Auto and the buttons, and they were all the user interface in the car. But then you had hardware, you had software, you had middleware, everything had to combine. And yeah, I just joined their meetings, talked with people, asked them, okay, what are the struggles you're hitting? And then after a week, I just stepped in, started explaining, okay, these are all your struggles. I think Scrum is at least a form of solution for this. Are you guys willing to try this with me? And they said yes. And basically, because we were in a scale up, this was a team of 5 people that turned into 2 teams of 10 people. That eventually I got asked, hey, we have a team that is also reliant on them. Could you take them on as well? And eventually I ended up with 7 teams under me and more of an agile coaching role than a real Scrum Master role. I actually taught 2 people to become a Scrum Master within those teams because I was too busy. And yeah, so after a year, I just had a very nice pressure cooker situation at Lightyear. But sadly, I don't know if you know this, but
Yeah.
yeah, they went bankrupt at a certain point. And I was hearing some things in the grapevine like, okay, as a consultant, you know it's when it's your time to go. So then I contacted Team Rockstars IT, asked them, hey, I hear great things about Ascent from other colleagues. Can I join there? And they were like, well, we can try. Then I had a really nice conversation at Ascent, and they said, okay, when can you start? So that was really nice. And I started working with data teams. And I think as a developer, previously, I really never thought about data. I didn't think about what's going to happen with this data once I put it in the database. Didn't really care about it. Maybe I had to make a report once in a while. And here I start working with people that do data massive scales, like terabytes of data, lots of very intricate SQL statements. And yeah, so yeah, I had also had to really rethink, okay, what does agile mean for these teams? And that was a very interesting situation where one of the teams I'm working with started out having to work every 3 weeks and not delivering anything, going to DevOps style twice a day delivery. And
So,
yeah,
so So the biggest challenge you think that, with data is what? Dependencies and,
Yes.
the fact that everything's dependent on everything else. So getting a useful increment out frequently, getting it, into production frequently can be really, really challenging because of all those
Yeah.
dependencies. Is that one of the biggest issues?
Yeah, it's completely dependent. Like a lot of work as a Scrum Master I do is make sure that all those dependencies are managed, but also if there's an impediment or maybe somewhere there's a firewall change and then suddenly we can't get the data anymore. But there's also one of the biggest, hardest things we are currently facing is that we have a bit of a bottleneck going on, that we have one team that's responsible for connecting to data sources, and we have that gets in the data lake, and that's all the raw data. And then we have a team that is responsible for creating the next step of that into data warehouse. And then you have a team that is focusing on reporting and analyzing the from based on data warehouse. And yeah, if someone wants a new report or wants something added to the report, I've been in a situation that someone asks, "Oh yeah, have this one table I want added." Oh yeah, we take a look at it. That's not that much work. We expect to be able to deliver this in 12 weeks because it's such a staggered
Yeah,
way
yeah.
of handling things.
And so, as a Scrum Master, you're spending a lot of time trying to raise the transparency of the bottlenecks, as you called them, the
Yeah.
things that slow down and slow down delivery and make your teams less effective.
Yeah, so one of the things that I love from if you take a look at like the Kanban theory, if you combine it with Scrum, is okay, start creating the board exactly as things are happening. Like a lot of boards in the teams I joined at Ascent, it was just to do in progress done,
Yeah.
um, which works in certain situations. But if you want to find those bottlenecks, it becomes important to write out every step you're hitting, and yeah, then even maybe put some whip limits on it. So one of the things we found out is that it took a lot of time um, to get everything reviewed and back to the main branch
Yeah.
because for example all if you have one source, all tables of that source were one in one file. And then if you have the merge request, then you had a lot of things going on. That team was just getting really annoyed by using Git continuously.
Yeah.
So we invested with the team on breaking it up more so you could deliver faster, just be able to deliver one table at a time. And yeah, that took some time, but eventually it turned into, yeah, we take 3 weeks just to deliver one thing to we deliver twice a day. And yeah, that's really cool stuff to do. But a lot of the times it's also talking with other departments, other teams. We have a cloud and system teams who are great at enabling everyone, but yeah, you do need to make sure that they talk to the right people at the right time to
So
unblock things.
so ultimately, making things transparent, things like the use of Kanban and
Hmm.
queues, exposing queues, which is how you're describing the sort of by making the breaking the process into, doing something and then waiting for the other thing to do something can really expose that, and then that allows you to introduce whip limits and things like that. The other thing is really providing that kind of interface to make sure the right meetings are happening across
Yes.
teams when there's heavy dependencies.
Yeah.
So, do you think they're the as a role of a Scrum Master? Do you think what is the most challenging thing that you face on a regular basis? What is the thing that really, making things transparent can be challenging, dealing with other
Mm.
teams can be super challenging, but other things that make your life really hard?
Yeah, like on a professional level, one of the things that I think is important to know if you ever want to be a Scrum Master, you're in a lot of meetings. There's a lot of communication going on, and a lot of that communication is based on certain knowledge people receive from teams, and that's not always fully correct, 100% context. I think as a Scrum Master, the biggest challenge is to make sure that the right people are in the right room together at the right time. And that also means sometimes convincing a manager from a different department to make time for this thing that is going on, because the product owner says from the other team says, yeah, that's nice, but we also have our own priorities. And then it becomes also a escalation. Okay, what is the highest priority? Then make sure the product owners talk with each other, make sure the engineers talk with each other. And sometimes it's just fixing one line of code. But the way to get there, it sometimes takes a full week just to make sure that the right people talk. And I think as a Scrum Master, you are in all those meetings, so your team don't have to.
Yeah. That's interesting that you've made decisions, because there's many ways of solving these problems. Some of them isn't empowering the team to solve these problems, but you're saying that the often it is the case that you can, and I guess it's classic servant leadership, right, Yannick? But you can take the burden of some of this communication, collaboration on top to allow your team to actually be doing real work, because ultimately that's your success is measured by the effectiveness of the team, right? How much value they're actually delivering,
Yeah.
and therefore sometimes you'll end up getting them to do stuff, help, collaborate, communicate, etc. Sometimes you'll take that burden, maybe bring in one person in to support something. Would that describe how you deal with that challenge?
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I ask a lot in my job is, okay, I think I understand you. Let me summarize. Is this correct? Yes. Okay. If I get you the right person, what should they be able to do? And then I get like a list of, okay, they should have the rights to do this. They should have the ability to unblock us on this and this and this. Okay. Now with this information, I'll go up and I'll see what I can do for you. And I think my experience as a developer really helps here, because on a certain level, I understand better what the problems are. But sometimes it's also a bit of a curse, because sometimes I see my developers make choices where I, as a developer, in my experience, hit those choices as well and made the same choices. So I understand why they are making it. But I also know it probably won't work. And yeah, my personal biggest challenge here is then to let them fail in a safe way, because sometimes I really need to sit on my hands and let them experience that failure and see why it doesn't work. You can explain it, but that learning experience is something, as long as it's not critical enough, you should let them do it.
Yeah, critical or expensive. Those two
Yeah.
things tend to be important. So you and I get your frustration, though it is funny sometimes. I used to have a real job. Now I'm a CEO, but there's times where I think I know best, and I want to coach my teammates, mentor them to do it the way that I think. And it turns out actually I don't always know best. And this is sort of classic. As you get older, you have to sometimes realize that, yeah, they have to either fail themselves or you actually aren't always right. So that's good as well. You
Yeah.
have to sort of, and it's
Have that
always
happen as
that
well.
balance. Yeah, and it's all about balance, right? So all right. So a lot of our listeners on the Scrum Master journey, they've embarked on it. If maybe they're just beginning that journey, what advice would you give a new Scrum Master?
Yeah. So any new Scrum Master, I advise make sure you're fully interested in what your team is building. Even if you don't understand it, ask questions. How do things work? Why do they work the way they work? And I think building psychological safety is a really tough thing. And it is something that you will probably fail at a couple of times. And I think The Scrum values are a very good understanding of what creates a psychological safe environment. And by living up to those values, by being open when you fail, by being aware of your own faults and asking the team, hey, how can I improve this? For example, I had a session yesterday where everyone came out frustrated. I thought I could set up a nice workshop. Well, it wasn't what the team needed. And it took 2 hours and we didn't get where we wanted to go. But I just said to the team, okay, I misunderstood what you guys needed. Sorry, what do you need? And then they said, yes, but because of the way we did this workshop, which makes sense that we did it this way, we actually found out we are already aligned on this part and we actually just need to start drawing things out. So we actually also don't need you for that. We're just going to plan a meeting after this, after you have had lunch, and we're just going to draw the things out we want to discuss. And if we then need you, we'll come back to you. Now, I just lighted up a bit because I felt down on the fact that I didn't prep well enough. I misunderstood the assignment. I didn't think I was doing it right. But by being open about that feeling, being clear, like being transparent on this, and being respectful to the team as well, because it was easy enough to just think, ah, come on, guys, you guys know this is what you wanted. Let's do this. Why are you guys taking so long? Getting annoyed that you guys. No, it's about being also respectful to them and say, hey, I messed this one up. How can I improve? That creates this environment in which it's okay to fail as a person, also fail in communication, fail in things, and improve. And that's the start. And that builds a strong team. And once they get in that groove of always improving, always being open and respectful, then you can also look at processes. And once your team is, yeah, so effective, you start hitting anything that's outside of the team. And then you can actually start saying, hey, our team is being blocked because you guys don't have your stuff together. Let's have a talk about how you guys are doing things to make sure that we don't get blocked anymore.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you started, as a new Scrum Master, thinking a little bit about values, thinking and investing time thinking about how you create an environment that allows teams to be focused, respectful, inclusive, and safe. I mean, the values really focus on safety and focus. That's kind of what those values really embody. And I think spending time thinking about how do you create that environment and being mindful of the actions that you take. For instance, the action that you described, Yannick, the action of, oh my gosh, this meeting didn't go well. I'm to blame. Let's, by presenting that vulnerability, that honesty to the team, it creates the feedback, and the environment where they feel that they can do the same, which I think is really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, I also have another example of that. One team I recently started working with was on a lot of pressure. We were in a migrations period. There was a lot of pressure. A lot of things were not going well. Like every day there was a new escalation. Things were going on. And I myself, yeah, I taught English myself by watching a lot of TV. One of them was South Park.
Oh,
And
not sure that
yeah,
can teach you English, but yes, okay.
yeah, not really nice English. Let's keep it at that.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, when you have escalations going on every day, you start to cost a little, right? And one of the developers actually came up to me during a meeting and said, hey, I am a very religious person. Would you please stop cussing with God?
Mm.
Because yeah, I think everyone can probably think what I
Yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah.
Um, and I said, in that moment, I just stood still, let the silence be there for a minute and say, you're absolutely right. I am very sorry. I will try to do better. Thank you for saying this.
Mm.
Thank you for just saying something I am doing that is making you feel uncomfortable? And that was all I had to do in that meeting. But you could see in the team yeah, they were all under that pressure. They were all feeling it. They were all understanding why I was saying it. But on the other hand, it made a safe space to just
Yeah.
say, yeah, we're still professionals. Even if everything is going wrong, even if everything is burning, we'll get there
Mm.
and we'll pick it up.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about at Scrum.org the platinum rule. Do unto others not as you expect to be done unto, but do unto others as they expect to be done unto, as they need, you know?
Yeah.
So, and the only way you can do that is by frequently asking the question, how did I show up at that meeting? Is there anything I could have done better? Is there something that I can present in a different way, act in a different way that would make you more effective. The other thing that you say, I just want to just one of the interesting that you said, know the business that the team's in. I think and care about it, take an interest in it. One of the big changes in the Scrum Guide in 2020 was the fact that everybody in the Scrum team is ultimately accountable for delivering value, not just the developers, so that change was really inspired by people like you saying the most effective Scrum Masters are ones that care deeply about the product that we're building, and making that more obvious, the fact that you're not measured by, I don't know, team happiness or team
Mm.
morale or anything like that. You're actually measured by the success of the team delivering value to customers, the increment, etc. And it's important to build that connection with the problem, everybody in the Scrum team, but particularly the Scrum Master, because of that, that sort of importance of everybody caring about the pursuit that they're on, as it were. I thought that was an interesting reflection. So, as much as being a Scrum Master is a set of unique skills, that connection to the ultimate customer and the ultimate product is an important one.
Yeah, I always tell my teams, I'm not your dad. You don't have to fully report to me, anything like that. I may be in a leadership role, but I'm not your dad. I trust you guys to do the right thing. I am here to help you get the right things done.
Mm. Yes,
And
that parental responsibility model, which a lot of people in management, let alone in Scrum Mastery, think, I'm telling people what to do and I'm your parent almost in the office, it only goes so far. Ultimately, it doesn't create an environment where self-management happens, where ownership happens, and where innovation comes.
yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, one of the coolest thing we also are doing at Ascent is, like mentioned to you already beforehand, I have ADHD. So we're also building something like a neurodiverse community within the company, where we're also focusing on making it more safe for also within Scrum teams. So we also go to the Scrum Master community, the product owner community, talk about people that are neurodiverse and what they need from certain meetings. Because yeah, that's also where we think our next step in unlocking things is going to be. Because in the IT world, there is a lot of neurodiversity going on. You have a lot of people that are in like certain spectrums or ADHD or even dyslexia. People think differently and it's very much represented. And I think that is something that is going to be very interesting within Ascent, is how we're going to make a IT company that also takes all these kind of things into account.
I,
And
I think it's creating an environment so everybody can be their best self, right? And delivering the most value to the organization, or appreciating that they're not right for this organization, they need to be somewhere else. Funny you should mention. So we call it a superpower. So I'm dyslexic, and I have two amazing kids that are dyslexic, dysgraphia as well, Tourette's,
mm,
ADHD. So we call it unlocking the superpower, because ultimately getting diverse perspectives, to getting different ways of thinking about problems is a superpower that allows you to build things that are just amazing. Remember, Einstein, dyslexic, Richard Branson, dyslexic, and you add ADHD to it. There's all of these amazing people. We want to build into teams to deliver amazing things to customers, and Scrum Master is a key accountability for making that happen.
Yeah, and I love my ADHD, but it also, even if it is superpower, like my superpower is I'm able to read a room instantly. I see all things going on. I see how people are feeling at the moment. I just see and feel it. But yeah, it also has drawbacks, right? So one of the things as a Scrum Master, you also are expected to create structure and to plan meetings, all these kind of things. I'm just very honest on that. That's not my strong suit. Yeah, if you ask me, hey, can you plan a meeting? Yeah, and I walk away and have another meeting, I completely forget I needed to do it. And then eventually someone asks, hey, do we have a room for this? Oh, let me check. Um, so I am honest with my team on that as well. And I ask them to help me with that. So even though it's actually my job, it's my responsibility, I ask others who I know are better in these kind of things to help me uh, get these things done. Keep reminding me if I forget something. And I think that's also part of the values, right? Being open about where your weaknesses lie.
There's interestingly a lot of conversations at the moment because of the use of generative AI and AI in general. That the question is, will we still need teams in the future? And I think the point that you raised is, and it is exactly spot on. I think the power of teams isn't the fact that individually they need each other to deliver valuable increments. It's not that they need each other, but the value is accelerated and amplified with each other. So even though in the future, yes, with the use of co-pilots, etc., you will not need as many people to working together to effectively deliver a working product, but you will, if you want to deliver the more innovative products, need to take advantage, and it sounds awful to say it like that, the different perspectives and the superpowers of all these people to bring them together to effectively deliver value in an innovative way. So and that's where Scrum Master is a crucial element to, you're sort of like that George Martin, if you remember the Beatles. The Beatles were an amazing band, but they would not have been anything without a George Martin. They worked together, and he was very diverse. Obviously, he wasn't from Liverpool, and he wasn't working class, and he'd been exposed to lots of different kinds of music, and he came into the Beatles and helped them to be the most, to become the first pop band ever, as it were, which is really interesting. Oh, I could talk all day about these topics, as I'm sure you have. You could too, and I'm sure our listeners would love to listen. But at some point, we unfortunately have to go, and this is the point. Thank you for sharing your thoughts today on what it's like to be a Scrum Master as part of a Scrum Master Real Talk series. I'm, I every time I talk to a Scrum Master about their journey and how they got to the place they are and what they really focus on, I always learn something new, as I'm sure our listeners do as well, or have as well. So thank you for spending the time today, Yannick.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a lovely talk.
And thank you for listening to today's Scrum.org community podcast. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, share with friends, and of course, come back and listen to some more. I'm lucky enough to have a variety of guests. Today we talked about Scrum Mastery, which is a fantastic and important, often undervalued accountability. But tomorrow we could be talking about product ownership and the future of product. So come back, listen to some more about professional Scrum, product thinking, and of course, Agile. Thank you for your time. Scrum on.